Hi everybody, it's Carolyn Caldwell here from Caldwell Evolution, and I'm here with day 8 of the Organizing Spring Fling. And today I'm going to talk about decision fatigue, and then tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, day 8, day 9, and day 10, I'm going to talk about some strategies for managing decision fatigue. I've come back outside because it's a beautiful sunny afternoon. It's a little bit cooler than I was thinking, and it's getting a little bit windy, but hopefully I can get a couple of minutes of this live done. And the other thing is, to make sure that I get this right, I've brought some notes with me today, so I will be referring to my notes. So the first thing is, what is decision fatigue? Well, decision fatigue happens when an individual has had to make a lot of decisions. And it happens more when they are significant decisions, or where the impact of the decision has a significance for the individual, or where the type of decision that they're making is more difficult for the brain. So having to choose either this or that may be more difficult than saying, pick your favorite from amongst this group of 10 whatevers. So what happens is, the more decisions that you make, the more difficult the decisions are, the decrease the quality of your decisions as the number of decisions and the significance of the decisions goes up. So what I find with my clients, I work in 3-hour blocks typically, unless we're doing packing for a move or unpacking for a move. I tend to work in 3-hour blocks, and the reason for that is very simple. I find that by the time I get to about 2.5 hours, my clients just glaze right over, and I know that they are struggling with decision fatigue. However, if you look at the research and the literature, and for those of you who know me, you know that if I get a chance, I'm always trying to do a little bit of academic, a little bit of research and literature. So there are 4 main components to decision fatigue, or 4 main types of decision fatigue, or results that psychologists have found if an individual is struggling from decision fatigue. So the first is the inability to make a trade-off. So if you're working with an organizer and the organizer says, would you like A or B? Would you like to keep A or B? The individual who's struggling with decision fatigue will find that they just can't really make the decision. And it happens more often, or more likely, or more significantly, where both of those choices, A and B, both have pros and cons associated with them. And again, if the impact of the decision is very significant, then the decision fatigue will set in more easily. What I find with clients, what happens is that when clients have decision fatigue, when I'm working with them, when they get to this point, I find that they just look at me and says, oh, I don't know, you make the choice, you make the decision. Now, as a professional organizer, I don't make those choices for my clients. For those of you who have worked with me, you know that I don't make choices for my clients. You get to make all your own choices. I might challenge your choices. I might support you through that decision fatigue, but all the decisions and all the choices are yours. Sometimes other things that clients say to me are, they just, oh, whatever, I don't care. They really do care. They're just tired. Their decision-making muscles are just getting a little bit worn out for the day. The second impact that we see is decision avoidance. So what happens there is that the individual will just stop making decisions. And what I find there happens is, a client will look at me and say, oh, I don't know, I'd like to just put it all back. Just put it all back, I'm done. I don't want to make any more decisions. And that's fair. That's completely fine. And that's usually the right choice when that decision fatigue has started to set in. The third impact is with impulse purchasing or poor impulse control. When an individual starts to experience decision fatigue, they are more susceptible to their own impulses. And what I find happens is, we'll get towards the end of a sorting or a shedding or a clearing out exercise, and the individual will say, just throw it all out. You know, their impulse is to just get rid of everything. I just want to get rid of everything, throw it all out. And again, if you've ever worked with me, you'll know that that is not going to happen. If I find a client that's just saying, throw it all out to me towards the end of a project or a working session, I'm going to probably say, yeah, probably not. I think that we need to switch things up, or we're done for the day, or we need to move to something else, or we need to make our decisions differently, or your decisions differently, because it sounds like decision fatigue is starting to set in. The danger, if you find that you're experiencing that, is that your impulse will have you throw a bunch of things out that really it would have been better ultimately that you maybe didn't throw out or didn't throw out now. And then the fourth element, or the fourth impact of decision fatigue, is impaired self-regulation. So when decision fatigue sets in, what the psychologists have found is that the other executive functions, which happen in our frontal lobe, start to also become fatigued, or their ability to function become impaired by decision fatigue. So one of the things that happens is that self-regulation, impulse control sets in. So I may find that the client becomes very short-tempered with an animal that may be in the house, a family pet, or they may become impatient with themselves, or impatient with a loved one or a spouse or somebody else who's living in the home. And again, that's a sign that decision fatigue has set in. So I would love to hear from you. I'd like to know if you have ever experienced decision fatigue. Have you ever come across it? Have you ever come across it in yourself? I'd love it if you were to put a comment below and let me know. When have you come across decision fatigue? Have you been in a shedding exercise or a downsizing exercise, and have you noticed it? I know some of you actually did clean out the junk drawer after yesterday, and I'd be curious to know if you experienced decision fatigue with that. I come across it a lot when people are working with clothes. Now, you know, if you make a mistake throwing out the wrong clothing item, it's probably not significant, but what is significant is if decision fatigue sets in after an organizing exercise or an organizing session, and then you start to make unhealthy or poor quality decisions about something else that you're going to do next. So if you are going to be organizing and you are going to be downsizing, and you are going to be making a lot of decisions, you might not want to work on the family budget or do a purchasing exercise right after that, because your impulse control will be poor, your executive functioning may be poor, and your ability to make a decision between A and B will also be poor. So you might want to make those decisions before you do the sorting and the organizing project. So I hope that's helpful. Love to hear from you, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.